I just wanted to take a moment to show you some behind the scenes of how I work with our clothing manufacturer. This is going to give you a lot of insight into all of the care and attention that goes into every single detail. So let's talk about our dress Lily, which you can see right here. Our manufacturer source all of the materials, all the fabric and all the trims for the dresses, and here they're trying to find the ideal buttons for this dress. Pearl buttons, they have a little bit of gold detailing, which I absolutely love, as I am saying here. They're also asking about the size, whether they should be 10mm or whether they should be 12mm, and that's very important for the final look of the dress. And here we're just trying to figure out the right distancing between the buttons. What I really don't want to happen is them gaping, so it shows the skin in between them, and also I don't want them to be too close to each other, so there's just too many in a row. The dress incorporates a placket, which is where the buttons meet each other, but unlike regular shirts, the plackets don't overlap, they just kind of sit next to each other. There is a separate piece of fabric underneath, so the skin doesn't show, but this is where I was trying to explain. They just don't overlap, they're just next to each other. And I've used Oliver Bonas and one of their dresses as a model. The dress has some ruffling at the bottom, and here we are just discussing what the ratio should be and how much fabric should be used for this ruffle. That's very important in the final look of the dress, because the amount of fabric that is going to be used there is going to give more or less volume to the dress. And then we move on and start talking about the belt and the end, which has kind of a special and different shape. Up here is an example of the loop that is used for the belt, obviously in a different color that we needed. And then we carried on the discussion around the belt and the end and how that should look like, and the measurements and ratios and so on. They proceeded to make the initial sample, which is in a different fabric than the one that we've chosen. This is just the process, this is just the initial sample to get some feedback. And as you can see here, I'm starting to give some feedback of things which I don't feel look quite right based on the pictures. And then they also provide measurements, and I compare the initial measurements against what they provided, and also take into account their advice, of course. There's a whole process and a whole loop of feedback, and it's a very interesting process to me personally, because I'm doing this for the first time. And all of that feedback is incorporated into the final sample, which you can see down here, which I am wearing and modeling and trying to take beautiful pictures in. Not always succeeding, but this is me, and this is the very first sample that we've made using these manufacturers, and I am very, very pleased with it. And hopefully this is giving you some insight into all of the work that goes into it and all of the attention to the details.